Hey YouTube, Matt back with a long overdue shed update. Between work and weather, I have not been getting to the details. What can I tell you? Doors, 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 doors. That's what the latest couple of installments of work have been all about. I will give you a closer view of this, but maybe you can see in the backdrop there, my man door on the side of the shed is installed. I didn't bother to film that. It's the installation of a pre-hung door in brand new construction. There's frankly nothing to it. There's 100 videos about that if you want more details. You set it in place, you shim behind the hinges, you screw it in, and then you're pretty much done. You just tack it down. In fact, the only thing interesting about it is that I ordered the door from a different place than I thought I was going to order it so I could get it sooner. And it turns out to be about a ½ inch smaller all around. So I've got a lot of shims in there, but it's fine, no worries. The shed doors, I have one up and one that I'm going to show you how I go about putting them up. When you last saw these, they were just frames. Once again, I didn't bother to take any video of cutting the sheathing into a rectangle, gluing it on the front and painting it red. By now, you've seen paint, you've seen glue, and you know, you're not an idiot, right? So skip a bit, as they say. Here we are hanging them up. I go back and forth as to whether this would be easier with a helper or I like the system that I have. Let me change angles here, zoom in a little bit, and I'll just walk you through how I'm doing this. This is the magic spacer block. This is cut to the distance that I need the door to clear the floor of the shed by. So the way this works is that this goes in here, and as you can see, the door needs to go up a little bit. I have my friendly neighborhood car jacks set in place to handle the raising and lowering and level of the door. And I have one screw just tacked in up here just out of frame, which I'm now going to loosen a little bit so that I can raise the door so my spacer block fits. Once I get my height about where I want it, and this is what I want. I want the spacer block to clear. You probably can't see exactly how that goes because the red paint is throwing it off, but it's, you know, plenty of room. There's lots of wiggle room there. So now I've got this where I want it. What I want to do is raise the other jack so that I make sure this bottom frame of the door is perfectly level. And it's pretty close where it is, but it could use a pump. Come out here, we'll give this bad boy a pump, look at the level, give it another pump. Now, of course, it's not pivoting exactly on the center here, right? I should have it pivoting clear out at the corner if I wanted this to go really fast. I'm just going to give that another, just a little tiny bit there. I want this thing pretty darn level. I don't want this door to drag, because if anything, it's going to sag over time. It's not going to go up. So I want to make sure that I at least start level with plenty of clearance. So if it does sag over time, the door will still open and close cleanly. Once I have it level, the next trick is to get it, the right distance out from the shed. And basically what I'm doing is I'm putting it out as far as I can get it on the hinges, because I'm going to put trim on the outside of this door, and I don't want that trim to run into the sheathing on the shed and keep the door from coming all the way open once it's done. So I want this hinge to stick out pretty much until the first set of holes is just barely digging in to, and my clamp is a little tight. Not having much luck with the hammer. All right, that is awesome. I'll just zoom in here so you can see what's going on. I have the clamp on the hinge holding it to the door frame, which is tight enough that it holds the hinge flat and keeps it from sliding around. But it's not so tight that the door can't be persuaded in and out of the shed with a hammer. So now that I've got the bottom of the frame perfectly level, and I have the hinge set, you know, in and out of the shed exactly where I want it, what I'm going to do is pre-drill the 2 holes that you see and go ahead and set a screw in at least one of them. And then that will stay in place, but could be adjusted if need be when I get up to the top hinge and find out that the whole door is crooked or whatever. This is the stuff right here. This is a 3.5-inch long treated screw. And that's why I had to pre-drill those holes. Otherwise, I'd be putting an impact wrench on my Christmas list. I'm going to slide on up to the top hinge on the door here, and it's lather, rinse, repeat. For that process, I'm just going to clamp it in place. Again, tight enough that it will stay by itself wherever I put it, but I do have to put it where I want it. And I can see already that this hinge needs to go out away from the shed a little bit, and that actually jives with my my level here. It says that the top of the door is in just a titch. So I'm going to take out our temporary helper screw here. Now it's in the way. And you'll know if you've got the tension right on this clamp because you should be able to move the door, frankly, without the hammer. Of course, what you can't move is the hydraulic jack. And then just as a sanity check, you can measure the gap down here at the bottom. We should have 1/2 inch. And if we come up here, we've got 1/2 inch. Almost. Now it's a tostada. Those of you who get that reference, I'm very sorry. All right, at this point, there is 1 screw in each of the 3 hinges. And the middle hinge, I didn't, you can't really finesse that. The top and bottom hinge set the door kind of where it is. So the middle hinge, you just put it in place, put a screw in it, and it's just extra support. What I'm going to do is clean up all of this junk. All right, guys, moment of truth. I only have 1 screw in each of these hinges. That way, if I have to move something drastically, which doesn't look like I do, it seems to swing pretty well. Anyway, if I had to move something, just a little bit, you run into the problem of the screw hole runs into the old screw hole that turned out to be wrong. So this way I've got 3 more chances to get the screw hole right without having to worry about an old one. But as it turns out, that guy swings clear, nice and smooth. Got the spacing I was after on the bottom. Pretty awesome. Tell you what's not awesome, my friend the wind is back. Okay, well, so anyway, now I get to drill and put Anyway, so now I just get to pre-drill and put the screws in the rest of the hinge holes, and it'll be on to mounting the hardware for the latch. I've already done that on this door, so I'm just gonna do a quick, zoom in again, show you what's going on. And then I think that's gonna be a wrap probably for this day. Okay, nothing fancy here. I just have sliding lock bolts. I put one on the top and one on the bottom because this door is big enough that it'll flex in the wind if it's not secured at both sides. There's a corresponding hole drilled in the floor. This particular hardware came with a nice metal plate to screw down so that the stress of the door pulling in the wind is not actually directly on the wooden hole. This bolt will ride against the metal, which will be pulling against the screws. So I expect that'll stay healthy for a long time. There you have it, YouTube. Doors. Finally, doors. It means I can put stuff from the garage in here and start thinking about turning the garage into the shop. Not done. as you can see, it's not as bad as the wide angle lens would have you believe, but obviously there's a gap around these doors. There is, it's not this wide, this stuff, trim. There's white trim. It's gonna go around the doors, overlap where the two doors come together and block that seam, cover up the top and the bottom and make it all nice and tight. I haven't decided whether I'm gonna put weather stripping on there or some sort of a barrier to make it really seal up. My guess would be no. It is, after all, just a shed. I'm really glad I held out for the outswing door. I did not want to give up the floor space for the footprint of the door, and I think I was right about that. Paint, it's the last thing really. Once I get the trim up, I'm gonna have to go around with the red paint and touch up stuff like this, where I scuffed the doors, dropping them, getting them in. I need to put another coat on the soffit and fascia and fly rafters because because they need it. And then obviously the trim has a coat of paint on it, but put the brad nails in, tacked it up, so now it's full of nail holes. Bottom line, I need one more nice day to paint, and then I'm gonna call this thing done, at least until next spring. I have plans for gable end vents on both ends of this building, but I see no reason to put those in just ahead of winter. So I'll do one wrap up once I get the whole thing painted, and we'll have a tour of the shed. May or may not get the shelving in before that, but anyway, so one more to go, YouTube. Hang in there. It is almost done. Stay safe.